So poops, Malaysia and Singapore are very close to one another, so lots of people cross the border every day, some for holidays and some permanently. A lot permanently. But lately, there's been an interesting exception. Consider the case of Fadiah Nadwa, who just got deported. So poops, Fadiah Nadwa was banned from Singapore. There's a whole bunch of articles about this at the moment. She used to be a member of Lawyers for Liberty and she left to do a PhD at NUS. Fadiah came to the news because she made a post about how she got banned, saying she was banned from entering Singapore and was deported to Malaysia after staying there for 5 years and being conferred a doctoral degree. And there's a whole bunch of stuff here about what happened, why she wanted to go to Singapore, and she says the denial of entry into Singapore and subsequent deportation are tantamount to a deliberate attack on my scholarly work. Now, Singapore's Home Ministry and Minister K. Shanmugam were not just taking that, and they issued a statement saying, Dr. Fadiah Nadwa Fikri, a Malaysian activist, used to come here regularly. She was studying in NUS. She encouraged local activists to adopt her, blah blah blah. And you can see what the statement says right here, basically declaring that, hey, if you want to interfere in Singapore, then that is not okay. To which Fadiah immediately shoots back again by saying that the Singapore government's statement is malicious, false, and defamatory. And making this full-on long statement right here, which you can read if you have a look on your screen.
But probably most importantly,
Fadiah said that the only plausible explanation for these acts of repression from Singapore is that I, as a scholar of Southeast Asian studies whose work examines the intellectual history of decolonization and anti-imperialism in Malaya, Malaysia, Singapore, and the broader region, am being targeted for discharging my scholarly responsibility. And on the surface of things, it's a sordid tale. This poor girl, she couldn't deliver her guest lecture, can't speak up against imperialism. Oh, but this is not a video criticizing Singapore, by the way. It's actually something that quite a lot of Malaysians support as well. That's just what it is, sapoops. And yes, this is Free Malaysia today. Singapore did a good job. Why so busybody being activists? And it just goes on and on and on. So yes, Singapore, Malaysia is very much on your side here. But you know, for a while, I did have questions about this because there was a whole bunch of disagreement on the whole incident and whether there was actually any evidence provided by the Singapore government. The messages about this were kind of inconsistent. I mean, I sometimes read Calvin Cheng, for example, and Calvin said this, declaring that he went through her post and didn't see any compelling reason for her to be banned. And I also looked through her post and indeed, it seemed like there was nothing. And Calvin also said that he went ahead and made a new post saying that some things were not apparent from her social media post. And I'll have you know, I didn't treat this as a kacang putih, like let's go ahead and accept it type thing. I actually went over to Min Shan's Instagram and I said, that's awesome, Min Shan. Hopefully if it doesn't pose a security concern, there can be some evidence or indication of what she did to clear the air later, and hopefully then that can serve as a clearer indication of why she was actually banned, as otherwise people would inevitably and naturally ask questions and ask whether it was appropriate for this to happen. No response from Min Shan, though somebody said, hey, you should apply for Singapore citizenship. Thank you, Sapu, I appreciate it. But yeah, this is not me criticizing the action of the Singapore government. The Singapore government has every right to make its own immigration decisions. If it wants to stop anyone at the border for any reason, it's none of my business. But it is true that people are just gonna ask questions about how exactly Fadiah ended up getting banned.
In what way she encouraged local activists to adopt her brand of radical advocacy, incited them to break the law and use violence.
Now by this point, I know some of y'all are going, oh, thought police, how dare you? How could you do such a thing? But well, yeah, I looked a little further into that.
And you might find the results disturbing.
First I went to Fadiah's Instagram account. Oh, what's this? It looks like it's a YouTube video. So I went over to YouTube, I looked at the channel that she featured on and found the exact video that she was actually featured in, which is, by the way, a grand 2 hours long, and I discovered some pretty distorting things. Yeah, remember how Min Shan said she encouraged local activists to adopt her brand of radical advocacy, incited them to break the law and use violence? Yeah, this is what she says.
This emphasis on non-violent protest, right? Like a peaceful protest. When we keep emphasizing that aspect of the protest, what are we legitimizing really? We are really demonizing violence as another tactic that can be used to really dismantle these oppressive systems that we live under. So yeah.
So yeah, I think encouraged local activists to adopt her brand of radical advocacy, incited them to break the law and use violence is... I mean, you can argue and you can debate that, but...
What was she really trying to say here?
Fun fact for you though, Sopoop. If you're advocating for violence and a return to our radical past, it's just not allowed in Singapore. It wouldn't be allowed in Malaysia either, by the way. Now, of course, some of y'all are probably screaming out, Barua! How can you say such a thing? But oh, before you say that,
another disturbing thing for your consideration.
This woman seems a little too friendly with communists.
Good to see somebody from Malaysia in the chat. My grandfather was a part of the Communist Party back in the day in Malaya. So that's awesome. Wonderful to thank you for joining us.
Okay, that's not automatically sus, but...
I recently, like a few months ago, actually went to visit veterans of the North Kalimantan Communist Party. It's really, really, really interesting.
And in a separate part of that,
when you talk to people who lived through that period, when you talk to people who survived that violent episode, you know, because I have that opportunity, you know, to still have this conversation with the veterans of the Communist Party in Sarawak.
Okay, so she's in contact with people from the Communist parties?
So I was assisting this one woman, a member of the Communist Party of Malaya. She was stateless up until last year.
Okay, she's been assisting people in the Communist Party?
Oh, I would recommend the memoir of Chin Peng. So Chin Peng was leader of the Malayan Communist Party. He was the British Empire's enemy number one. So he wrote a memoir focusing particularly on the emergency. I read a review of that I wrote a review of that memoir on Liberated Texts, so people can just find it there on that website.
Interesting. So she likes Chin Peng, whose ashes we wouldn't even take. Oh, and lastly,
I feel like when you talk about Marxism in this part of the world, like in Southeast Asia, in countries like Indonesia and Malaysia, it is something that is almost natural for people to relate, because it speaks to that self, it sounds almost like Sufism, I would say.
As you can see, she is saying that she interacts with people who used to be part of the Communist Party. She interacted with remnants of the Sarawak Communist Party. And also, one of the books that she recommends that people read is the memoir of Chin Peng.
Oh yeah, and what the hell is this?
You know, I've seen so many people refer to Chinese people as Barua communists in Facebook comment sections at this point. But I think this kind of raises a question, which is Dr. Fadiah perhaps a little too friendly with the communists? You can call that discharging academic responsibility, but there you have a very interesting grey area, because at what point does it go from academia into actually networking with communists? Where is the line between somebody just studying this stuff and actually being an activist? It's unclear. And what's also unclear is if you're saying, for example, that, oh, what are we legitimizing really? We are demonizing violence as a tactic that can be used to really dismantle. Is that academic expression or is that incitement? And also bear in mind that this was just one YouTube interview and we don't know about all the other stuff that happened along the way. It's not an accusation that other stuff has happened along the way, but yeah. If you're going out constantly interacting with revolutionaries or veterans of the revolutionary movement, and you are going out and suggesting that people need to challenge the way that their society handles protests, I think that perfectly fits in the parameters of what Singapore might legitimately consider an undesirable guest. From a sort of national security perspective, I can understand the decision of the Singapore government. And frankly, all of this is just giving off the energy of the two girls from the Monday of Palestine Solidarity, which went and met Shanmugam and gave a middle finger to the camera, which by the way I made a video about a while ago, so you can go right ahead and watch that. But yeah, it's basically the same kind of energy, sort that's like, it doesn't matter what you do, it doesn't matter what you decide, even if we don't want to layan you, we individually don't care enough about the issue that you want to advocate for, and you keep on advocating and advocating and advocating without an end. In this situation, I totally understand why Singapore would want to just be all like, alright, just stop coming, stop talking, and why Singaporeans support Min Shan in this action even if they might not have seen any evidence of what Fadiah actually did before this. So yeah, like that'll be great, right? You can do activism in your own country. Super amazing. You can be like P. Ramlee, who came back to Malaysia after his career in Singapore to achieve his wonderful success. Oh, but only to get betrayed by people in Malaysia and eventually brought down from grace.
It's quite a sad story actually, but that's what could happen.
It's nice to remind some of y'all again that this is not just a Singapore thing. Singaporeans and Malaysians agree on this issue. Dr. Fadiah was not a good addition to Singapore. And Singapore, y'all did the right thing. The only problem is that I guess Dr. Fadiah is now going to advocate from Malaysia instead. I don't know if she's going to be like trying to convince all of these commenters out here that she is truly on the side of justice. But it seems that if she tries to do that, then she's pretty much got an uphill battle to fight. But yeah, no Sapoop. For all we know, maybe some of you out there are ardent supporters of Dr. Fadiah. Fight against the colonial project. What do you think of the deportation of Fadiah Nadwa? Do you agree with the Singapore government or are you Team Fadiah? Let me know your thoughts down in the comments. That's all to say about that, and bye.